This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. November is Men's Health Awareness Month, so Talkspace wants guys to know that being prepared for life's biggest challenges and opportunities means prioritizing mental health, too. Talkspace can help you go beyond fine-tuned workouts, supplements, and productivity hacks. Talkspace can help you fine-tune your inner life so you can succeed in being the best version of yourself in any situation. And with Talkspace, you can get therapy from anywhere and on your time. You can even text your therapist between sessions. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace takes most insurance, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Men's Health Awareness Month is the perfect time to reach out to Talkspace. Now, get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com and save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com. That's Talkspace.com, promo code SPACE80.
It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does, and great to have you with us on this Friday edition of the show. So much to do over the next 60 minutes. If it's a Friday, it means Robert Littal is here from Black Sports Online. He'll join us in 20 minutes, talk about the top stories of the week. We got a lot to do today. See that finish last night? I should have started. I almost was tempted to start the show today with that finish between Troy and USC. How amazing was that finish last night? Triple overtime. Wow. Fantastic stuff. Again, I don't watch regular season college basketball, but I guess that was one I should have been watching. I think I was probably even asleep out here on the West Coast, Sam.
So, funny story about that game. I am internet acquaintances, right, with somebody who was at that game. They were at the game last night at USC. Wow. They had a flight to catch, a red eye back to Chicago, and they had to leave after double overtime to catch their flight. How unfortunate is that, Jason Page? Have you ever heard missing that ending of a what was it, 107-106 college basketball game? I would have just missed the flight, I think.
I have told this story before, and I will tell it again real fast because I want to get to the game. I was hosting in Hartford, Connecticut. It was 2009, 2010, whatever year UConn-Syracuse, the 6 overtime game at the Garden was. I look up after like the third overtime, and I see Mike Francesa in his seat, gets up and leaves. And I gave so much crap to him on the air to my audience the next day. I was like, "That's your sports pope." He left. Well. We've got a lot to talk about, Sam, and that includes the Bills losing in Houston. Hope you tailed me on Houston in the under last night. Thank you, world. Thank you. I'll take my victory lap on that one. Look, Sam, I don't know how surprised we should be given the history of the Texans at home against the Bills, but it is still stunning to watch when you see this Bills offense that can be a juggernaut at times, shut down the way it was for so much of this game, Sam. I mean, 8 sacks of Josh Allen. I actually felt bad for him by the end of the night.
It's the most he's ever taken in his career by margin, right? So, yeah, impressive stuff out of the Texans defense last night, and you said it, right? It's like NRG Stadium, or if they still call it that, has like a signal jammer for all of the Buffalo Bills. That goes back to the Deshaun Watson days. It's just not a franchise that can perform down there, Jason. We can get more into the game in a second, but my big takeaway from this, as I think a lot of people's reading the internet fodder about this game is we got to stop the Thursday night football thing, like week 9 of the NFL season. Because now you look at the last 3 weeks, you don't even have to address the injuries yesterday. Both sides, all 3 sides, all 4 sides. You had a ref blow out an Achilles. You had the play clock get injured for a quarter. Everybody was getting injured in that game. I'm pretty sure coaches on both sidelines got injured in that game. Absolutely ridiculous stuff in terms of the product the NFL was putting out. But then I went back and looked because it made me genuinely curious. This is 3 weeks now. 3 weeks in a row where you have playoff, if not Super Bowl contenders, losing key members of their team. maybe not necessarily Super Bowl contenders if you don't want to count the Broncos in there, right? But playoff contenders nonetheless. I think that's fair to say. Losing key members to their team because they're playing on a 4-day week. The NFL has got to stop this. There's no reason that 10 weeks, 11 weeks, 12 weeks into the season, we should be giving these professional athletes 4-day weeks.
I don't disagree.
After week 9, it was fun while it lasted. You can still do Monday Night Football, but this Thursday night thing's got to stop.
I don't disagree, but it's not going to stop because Prime's paying all this money for it. They're not, and the NFL's taking that money. That's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. This league has shown it is going to put profits over player safety every single time. So I don't see any reason why it's going to change.
And this is the same thing as the tush push, right? When we said for so many years, they're going to outlaw the tush push, all player safety. No, they didn't. But when the referees get involved, is when we see action. You see a head referee blow out an Achilles because he's reffing on a short week. The referees union has enough power to change that.
That remains to be seen. I don't even know if they're still full-time employees yet. And that was something they were fighting for years. Let's talk about the game, though. Because I said this like 2 weeks ago. Houston's the team nobody wants to make the playoffs. That's the team everybody wants to keep out of the party. And this is why. They are dangerous, Sam. Defense travels. They won 3 straight games with their backup quarterback, whose name is Davis Mills, who half of the country probably doesn't even know or even heard of, even though he was a starter for this team before a guy named C.J. Stroud came along. I am blown away by what DeMeco Ryans and this defense continues to do on a week-in, week-out basis. Will Anderson is a disruptor. I loved watching him last night. And credit to Houston here, Sam. I mean, and you said everybody but Denver can make the Super Bowl. I got news for you. Anybody out of the AFC can make the Super Bowl at this point because I don't have any confidence in any of these teams to run the gauntlet that is the postseason. But it's going to be defense that carries the day, it feels like, in this NFL season, which is so funny because all we heard about was how it's so hard for defensive players. It's so hard to play defense in the NFL. Well, go look at the top teams in the league and tell me what they all have in common. Stout defense. And I have a feeling, like I said before, we're going to get like a 20-17 Super Bowl this year, 20-16 Super Bowl this year. I love what I'm seeing out of Houston. And now the pressure's on C.J. Stroud to come back and play more disciplined football is the word I would use. Because what you've learned over these 3 games is Davis Mills, who's not going to light up the charts with athleticism. Davis Mills, who's not running all over the place, making plays with his legs. That you can win with Davis Mills and beat good teams with Davis Mills, Sam. I think the lesson has to be for C.J. Stroud, less is more.
Yeah, so the Texans are beginning to fall into a weird spot that we're unfortunately all too comfortable with in the NFL, and that is franchise that has an absolutely elite top 3 unit in the NFL won't do anything about the other units around them and always ends up falling a game or 2 short. See, as recently as last year, Cincinnati, right? Or Seattle as recently as last year with their defense last year. So these teams have a propensity to remain competitive through the regular season. And you're right, we'll all have this thought that no one's going to want to see them when they get to the playoffs. Problem is, I still don't think they're getting to the playoffs.
I think they are, and I think it could be at the expense of Kansas City. Yeah. The stars are not lining up at all for the Chiefs right now. Everything they need to happen in conjunction with what they need to do is not happening. There's more NFL to get to. Joe Burrow. And I got to make a point about Sean McDermott next. Welcome back to the show. I'll get to my Joe Burrow point in a second here, Sam. But could I say one more thing about this game from last night? What are we doing, Sean McDermott? Kick the field goals. You kick the field goals, you win that game last night. You kick the field goals, you win that game last night. 3 straight possessions. 3 straight possessions, you could have won this game. I'm sorry, I refuse to believe. 4th down and 2 against that defense that you can't penetrate against all night. and you're running the football on fourth down. And maybe some people might want to say, okay, go for it on fourth down, just don't run it. Because clearly Josh Allen wasn't happy with that play call either. Sam, they kicked the field goals. They win that game last night.
Yeah, so the reason that you don't trust your field goal kicker there is because on the opening drive of the game, he blew an extra point.
I get it.
I'm sorry, that rattles a kicker, and kickers are creatures of mental habit, right?
Made
that
one
rattles
later.
a kicker. You can't trust him for 55 and 62-yard field goals respectively, right? On 4th and 2 when you have Josh Allen in the backfield. The running play call is interesting, and there's Joe Brady catching a ton of heat once again. Doesn't matter. I got news for you, folks. He's still going to have his pick of the litter when it comes to head coaching jobs this offseason, whether it be at the college level or the NFL level. He's going to get hired somewhere else. It's as simple as that. On the what are you doing thing, Allen addressed it in the postgame. He didn't get the play call in time and said he should have called a timeout. So yeah, they should have probably burned a timeout in that situation. I couldn't agree with him more. But you can't kick the field goal.
Sam, you can't kick the field goal, and you can't not kick the field goal on fourth down and then kick it on the next drive when you're still down a touchdown. You can't do it, Sam. It makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever to kick the field goal, to not kick the field goal on 4th and 2, and then on the next possession in the same spot, kick the field goal to make it a 4-point game. You can't do it. You can't do it.
They were 15 yards closer to the field goal.
Can't do it. You need the touchdown at that point because you're still going to have to score a touchdown, Sam. You still got to score a touchdown. Makes no sense to me. I'm sorry. Makes no sense at all. You can't. There's nobody that can make that make sense for me in that spot. Let's talk about the Bengals because they got a game this weekend, and it sounds like we're going to get Joe Burrow back for the Bengals in this game. He's on track to play, and I, for one, look, you're taking on the Patriots in New England. Good luck, because even if you win this game and you're Cincinnati, I have a hard time, and I went through the schedule because I wanted to see, was there any shot here for Cincinnati? Is there a path to the playoffs if you're the Bengals right now at 3-7? And it's basically you're going to have to win out and go 10-7. That's essentially what we're talking about here if we're Cincinnati. The Patriots this week, I'm sorry, they're home for the Patriots. I said on the road. My apologies. Then you've got a short week, followed by the Ravens in Baltimore. Good luck. They're going to be thirsty. Then you're in Buffalo. Then you're home for the Ravens. And then you're at the Dolphins. So I wonder, if they lose this week, do they shut down Joe Burrow for the rest of the season? If you lose this week.
This is one of the more perplexing things of all time. You have to only assume that the Bengals just want to troll the rest of the NFL and play spoiler wherever they can. This is a horrible decision to bring back Joe Burrow. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't love it for myself as a football fan, but from an organizational perspective, if I were a Bengal fan, I would be banging the table. I would be canceling my season tickets. I'd be doing everything possible. This is the cardinal sin that the Bengals could have made this season, was not start him last week against the Steelers, lose, and then try to start him this week when everything's already out the window? No. Last week was the week they had to start him in a must-win game to keep their season alive. They didn't. Now they're going to waste him, and it'll be fun. I think they'll probably beat the Patriots. I think there are going to be a ton of points in that game. Little foreshadowing for later, but they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to beat Baltimore twice. They're probably not going to beat Buffalo on the road in Buffalo in December. This is too late for the Bengals.
Here's the thing. I think as long as you're mathematically alive, which they are, as long as you have a path, as narrow a path as it is, I think you play him. And I think once they figure out, okay, we're not making the postseason, then they probably shut him down, play Flacco for the rest of the year. It'll enhance his value for whatever they're going to do. Can I also say this? One other thing, and I have to go back to the game last night.
What's the point in bringing him back for one game, though? Because they could be eliminated from their playoff lives could be over after this game.
You got to sell something to your fan base. Right?
I think the selling point should be, hey, we're paying this quarterback more than all but two in the National Football League. Come back and see him next year when he's fully healthy and ready to go.
Yeah, how many times are you going to say, come back next year, though? And they've been saying that now for a few years with this organization
right.
Since making the Super Bowl. One point, I make this point every year it feels like that I've been in sports media. The value of a backup quarterback, the value of actually doing your work as a GM and as an ownership group and getting the right people in place for your organization. Never more evident than what we have seen over the last 3 weeks, both in what we've seen this year in San Francisco with the Niners, or Santa Clara with the Niners, and what we've seen this year with the Texans and Davis Mills. The importance of having somebody reliable, even a Snoop Huntley who got a win while that one win that Snoop got for the Ravens, that could wind up being the difference between that team winning a division and not winning a division, making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. These are such important decisions that I feel like teams punt on so many times in not doing their due diligence and getting a solid backup quarterback. And in the case of the Bengals, I think they went out and did the right thing in getting Flacco after the fact. If they had had him maybe earlier in the season, it might have been a little different. Who knows? But the importance of a backup quarterback in this league, where especially now in a 17-game season when it's hard to keep guys healthy for an entire season, is so important, Sam.
Right. Yeah. To your point about the Bengals, and to the conversation itself, right? This is a team that started 3 games of Jake Browning this year. Mm-hmm. If I'm a Bengals fan, that's when I was gone. Doesn't matter whether Joe Burrow comes back. You wasted 3 games of this season on Jake Browning and then went and traded for Joe Flacco. Ridiculous. Unapologetically a failure from the Bengals' perspective. The backup quarterback that you didn't even mention is Jacoby Brissett, who set the NFL completions record in a game this season. Like, it is so true that backup quarterback play, I mean, I'm not going to say it's at an all-time high value-wise because quarterbacks aren't getting injured as much as they used to, but it's certainly very important, especially when you've got a young, up-and-coming quarterback.
Yeah, certainly is. All right, Robert Littal joins us on the other side. I got so excited I was choking up. Robert Littal, Black Sports Online founder, is going to join us coming up in a couple minutes. We'll get some thoughts with him on some of the top stories of the week. Later in the show, do WNBA players want to shut down the game? It's a serious question. Welcome back to the show. Order has been restored in the universe. You might be asking, what is Paige talking about? Well, last week we only had Robert Littal on the show for 1 segment. The founder of Black Sports Online usually joins us for 2 segments every week. Order has been restored to the universe. Robert Littal is here, the founder of Black Sports Online. Hangs out with us. Always love picking his brain on the top stories of the week. What do you make of the college football playoff poll? I mean, everybody's going crazy right now. We're not even at the final poll. Can we at least wait until we get through the final poll of the season before people hyperventilate? You know, there's still going to be twists and turns in how all of this sort of shakes out. And I know a lot of the angst is about Notre Dame and Miami, but let's just let them have this thing play out a little bit, Robert, before we all lose our minds.
I mean, people go crazy over the AP poll, and that has no meaning at all at the beginning of the season. They need something to talk about during the season. I think, college football is very much, you can see down the road maybe better than a lot of other sports. And you know that there are certain games and there are certain situations, you can see the day that Ohio State beat Texas, you knew the path that Ohio State was probably going to go. You knew the path that Texas was going to go. When Notre Dame lost the first 2 games, you knew if they won every game after that, they're likely was going to be in. And, teams like Miami, they have a chance. They still have to, get to the conference championship. So it's just, once again, it's just, we have social media. We have all of these shows. We need something to talk about. It's raining outside. People need to act fake upset about something. Even though I do find the ACC people very funny. They go real hard. They do not like the fact that head-to-head does not seem to matter to the committee.
Well, how do you value? And that's the question I ask you. If I put you in that committee room, how do you value head-to-head early in the season versus what a team looks like on the eyeball test today?
Yeah, I think you have to have a firm rule. I really do. I think either A,
I don't think but how do you have firm rules?
No. You can have a firm. Okay, either it should be simple as, if you have the same record and I beat you, then I should be ahead of you. Either that, or head to head, doesn't matter. when at the end of the year, I'm going to determine who's the best team. It has to be like either or, because if you're just like, well, who's better right now, Notre Dame or Miami? You would probably say Notre Dame. But if you're like, listen, head to head has to matter, then if they both have 2 losses and one of the losses is to me, then yeah, I should be ahead of you. So I mean, I think they don't clarify it enough, and that's what leads to a lot of the confusion.
What do you make of Bill Belichick spending time at his girlfriend Jordan Hudson's adult cheerleading competition this week, when his team's getting ready for arguably its biggest game of the year against Duke, a chance to play spoiler, really kind of salvage, at least in part salvage your season? What do you make when you see the video and the pictures of him watching Jordan Hudson in an adult cheerleading competition? I didn't even know there was an adult version of Bring It On. It was the joke I made yesterday. It's been brought in, and apparently that's what he's doing during game week.
Listen, I was always told that life is like a book. It's in chapters, right? I could not have predicted this last chapter for Bill Belichick. I mean, it just seems odd, I guess. I don't want to say creepy or cringy. It seems odd. Like if certain 73-year-old men, you could say, okay, I can see this happening because of who they are, the lifestyle that they've led. But with Big Bill, it's like, really? And she's there with the guys with the glitter on, and she looks, it's an adult cheerleading thing, but, they look like children. And it's just weird. I think the best meme I saw was the one where somebody says, oh, that's your granddaughter, right? Right?
It's like the reverse of children beauty pageants. It's like the reverse of that, isn't it?
It's just, and he's just there, but he's there in his Bill Belichick persona. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be different if she changed him a little bit. He was wearing polos and his hair was done. And you get with someone and they level you up, but he's just there in a nappy, dirty sweatshirt. He's mean mugging. His hair's all over the place. He's the same Bill Belichick, but with a 24-year-old cheerleading girlfriend. It really, your brain is not supposed to compute things like this.
I was laughing when I saw the thing this week where Sam and I joked about it yesterday, where Pablo Torre put out this tweet talking about, or this post on X, where he's talking about the fact that they've been nominated for Podcast of the Year and all these different awards and accolades that are well deserved. I mean, what Pablo Torre is doing is great. I literally sat up in bed last night watching his latest one about Riley Gaines. Which is terrific. If you haven't checked it out yet, go and watch it. I'm about halfway through it, and I'm reading this, and then Jordan Hudson retweets it with the comment, "You're welcome."
You're welcome.
One, it's not even about you. That's not even what they're nominated for. They're nominated for the aspiration stuff, not because they exposed that you've taken advantage of this elderly man named Bill Belichick in every way possible and torpedoed his life and his career. No. It's not about you, Jordan Hudson. I just thought that was hilarious.
Listen, I was the one that found out that the guy that she dated before was 65 years old. So there's definitely a pattern with Miss Hudson. And I don't know if he didn't have enough money, and so she went to the next level. But to me, this seems all plotted out. And it's odd that the greatest head coach in the NFL history cannot see that he's being played.
She said, "We're on to Bill Belichick." After the 60-something-year-old man, she was like, "We're on to Bill Belichick." That was essentially what she decided to do, Robert. It just boggles my mind, man. The times we live in, are just so interesting. I feel like I need to write a book just about these times that we live in.
Yeah, we have to co-write something just about the changes in media over the last 15 years and just all the weird stuff that's happened.
By the way, if I'm Pablo Torre, I know there's talk about him going to MSNBC, having some enhanced role with MS, or now it's MS Now. Sorry, it's no longer MSNBC. They've changed that. They actually moved out of 30 Rock too, which is kind of crazy. But Pablo Torre, there's been talk about him. If I'm him, why do you take that job? You don't need it. You don't need it. Stay where you are. You're a star right now. Don't move.
He's a good example of if you're good at something, one thing, go head into it and make your own niche and space.
Yes. Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee didn't need ESPN. He went there and he's making a boatload of cash, but he didn't need ESPN.
Yeah.
Dan Le Batard. There's life after corporate media.
That's why I tell young journalists now. Find your lane, stick to it. You can do okay by yourself.
We're coming back.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. November is Men's Health Awareness Month, so Talkspace wants guys to know that being prepared for life's biggest challenges and opportunities means prioritizing mental health, too. Talkspace can help you go beyond fine-tuned workouts, supplements, and productivity hacks. Talkspace can help you fine-tune your inner life so you can succeed in being the best version of yourself in any situation. And with Talkspace, you can get therapy from anywhere and on your time. You can even text your therapist between sessions. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace takes most insurance, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Men's Health Awareness Month is the perfect time to reach out to Talkspace. Now, get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com and save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com. That's Talkspace.com, promo code SPACE80.
Welcome back. Robert Littal hangs out with us every week, Black Sports Online founder. The day I could figure out how to keep my sweater from, shifting is the day. I can never figure out. You'll see me throughout segments where I'm tugging at it because it's always, the neck hole is always moving around in weird ways.
It's because you got good shoulders.
No, it's because I'm crooked. I must have crooked shoulders. Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, joins us every Friday on the show to just bounce around a whole different litany of sports topics. We're going to talk about this in the next segment, so I'm not going to give my opinion on it, but I want yours. The only thing I will say is I feel like we're headed towards a WNBA work stoppage. There's not going to be a season next year, because if you lose half the season, are you going to play 20 games? I mean, I guess they could. But I feel like they're going to lose next year at this point because players seem like they're in sort of an intractable position where they're not going to give up this fight unless they get to a certain spot in terms of percentage of revenues. And the league made its proposal this week of, $1.2 million max salaries and $250,000, for the floor, which seems like a vast improvement over where things were. And I don't know if this is a Kathy Engelbert problem, if this is a league officiating problem, if it's that plus the salaries, but it feels like we're headed towards no season next year. Am I wrong?
I mean, they've just blown the whole thing, really, to be honest with you, just from the beginning, from the time that I would say, Caitlin Clark, beat South Carolina and then the Can't See Me and all of that stuff. They just have not handled everything well. And I'm always pro player when it comes to unions and things like that, because whatever the players are making, the owners are making double, triple, or whatever that is, right? It's just, I don't want them to take a bad deal, but I do wonder if a work stoppage, so now you're talking almost, a year without the WNBA, how do they lose that momentum? Because they have a lot of momentum going after this year. Do they lose that momentum and kind of go back into where, it's kind of a fringe thing that people talk about it? And some of these young ladies, they're making so much money off the court now, and these other leagues are popping up. I'm starting to think that they don't feel that the WNBA is the most viable way for them to make money, so they can sit out and do that. But as always, when you do that, it's not the Angel Reese and the Caitlin Clarks or the Asia Wilsons that get hurt in that. It's the sixth young lady on the bench. It's the fifth starter that gets hurt. So I'm a little worried all the way around.
Sam and I are going to talk about it next segment, so I'll leave it alone for now. Joey Buss and Jesse Buss.
Yeah.
Out of work, even though their dad used to own the franchise and their sister, Jeannie, is the governor of the team. Apparently that's not enough for them to keep their jobs. What's going on in Los Angeles,
Man,
Robert?
that's quite like the Young and the Restless going on over in Dallas or whatever,
Succession.
It's a soap opera. It's a family dynasty. So, I'm old, so that's why I mentioned I don't know any of these new ones. But, yeah, I mean, it seems like Jeannie Buss kind of made that decision to sell. without the approval of the brothers, and the brothers voted not to sell. So, of course, when a new owner comes in and he finds out that this happening, hey, man, you got to get rid of your... Look, it's survival of the fittest. It seems to me the owner was like, listen, if you want to stay, they got to go to Jenny. And that's what happened. But what's crazy about it is that part of the Lakers, the scouting, has been pretty decent out of all the other stuff that's happened. I mean, Austin Reeves, they found a lot of other gems down there. They run the G League. They're making Bronny look decent. I mean, that was one part that was working. So that's what's kind of surprising to me.
Shedeur Sanders makes his first start as the Cleveland Browns, quarterback this weekend. For this team. And there's been a lot of conversation off of what happened when he came in last week, the 4 of 16, the interception, all of that stuff. And I thought Jeff Saturday, and I talked about this on the show yesterday, I thought Jeff Saturday put it beautifully. Not that I often agree with much of what he says, but talking about the fact that you're throwing this guy in, he's never played with the first team guys because they didn't even know the cadence on the offensive line, which is something that's so important. And basically, the fact that he was put in a position to fail last weekend. Now he's going to have an entire week of practicing with, the first team offensive line, which again just seems crazy to me. Do you expect that there will be improvement in him? Do you feel like there's any chance for him to succeed in Cleveland ultimately? Because I don't. I feel like he's going to have to get a shot somewhere else because nobody succeeds in Cleveland.
Well, yeah, I mean they've had like 42 quarterbacks, since they've come back, to Cleveland. Yeah. So can he break the curse? I guess we'll find out. I mean, he's still a rookie. No matter how popular he is. So, and he's playing an NFL team on the road. So there's going to be, issues with him. He has an extreme level of confidence, which is what you need. A lot depends on Kevin Stefanski. Do you want this guy to succeed or not? Because you're making up the game plan to help him. You know what he does well. You know what his weaknesses, are. But I will say this will be the highest rated game of 2 and 8 teams ever in NFL history. It'd be the highest rated game on the NFL Sunday ticket for 2 and 8 teams that has ever happened before. Because everyone is going to be watching. It's great for the NFL if he's good because he's super popular, but it's hard. I mean, it's hard for any rookie, first round, fifth round, or whatever. But I'll be rooting for him because when so many people are wishing bad on you kind of want that person to succeed.
Yeah, I've shifted on this too. I'm rooting for him. The whole way he carried himself in college sometimes drove me nuts. And I think a lot of that bus was driven by Deion. But at the same time, seeing what's happened to him when he was so successful at the collegiate ranks, at least from a statistical standpoint, I'm rooting for him to succeed. I only got about 10 seconds. Is Deion going to be there?
Deion's going to show up. Of course. It's prime time. Of course Deion's going to be there.
Good. I hope he's on the sidelines, too. We got to go. Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online. Check out his work there at BSO on X. Always appreciate you, my man.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
We're coming back with more Sports Wrap. Is the WNBA season a wrap already? That's next. Welcome back inside the Sports Wrap studios in Las Vegas. I'm Jason Page. It says it right there below my name, so it has to be true. Sam Yarnell, I'm getting the feeling we're not going to have WNBA basketball next year. And look, maybe this is all just part of the posturing that takes place in these negotiations. Everybody's got, it's the brinksmanship of negotiations and things we see so many times. But I am increasingly of the mindset that we're not going to have WNBA basketball next year, that this league is going to just blow itself up. And look, I'm not going to get into a blame game of, who's more responsible for what, how we got to where we are and all of that. All I'm talking about is what is happening in the here and now. And what's happening in the here and now is WNBA owners, the league, they've put out basically an offer. They've made sure that the public knows what that offer is. And that offer is, salaries that go up in this new collective bargaining agreement. Something like $1.15 or $1.5 million a year will be the max salary. And then $250, I believe, is the salary on the low end, $250,000. on the low end for a league that plays, 40 regular season games, something like that, which is certainly a boost over where league salaries have been. And when I saw this initially come out, my thought was, okay, this should be somewhat palatable. This is a spot where you can negotiate from if you're players. Not necessarily that it's the end point, but it's certainly a position where I think there's progress being made. Well, not so fast, Lee Harvey, because the Players Association has come out and said, no, this is not a spot that's going to move us off of where we are. This is not a spot that moves the ball forward, so to speak. And that leads me to believe players are in this for the long haul. They're going to shut this game down. There's not going to be a league next summer when the NBA season ends and we typically get the traditional start of the WNBA season. I don't think it's going to happen, Sam. And I don't know if it's getting Kathy Engelbert out of the conversation that needs to happen. I don't know if it's, they've talked about already changing the officiating and the structure of how games are called by officials. I don't know what it's going to take, but my impression is there's not going to be a season next year, Sam. It feels like players are so hung up on percentage of revenue versus a cap on the number that players can be paid, that they're not going to move off that. And I don't see the league getting to a point where they're going to get that revenue percentage to where players want it. There's not going to be a league next year, Sam.
It is, it's kind of, it's stark when you draw the comparisons between this and the Major League Baseball lockout that is imminent. I would love to talk to a sports economist about what has changed over. It feels like we are exiting the good old days to an extent. It feels like the last 10 years or so have been kind of, I guess actually I'll take that back. The last 13 years. It's the last 13 years have been kind of the good old days in terms of collective bargaining and all these contracts where everybody wins, be it players, be it leagues, or even the TV stations they're on, right? Everybody has benefited over the last 13 years since the last NFL lockout. And it feels like that's kind of coming full circle. When you think about how hard it is to watch everything these days and how everything's always shifting. We got an announcement earlier this week. ESPN is now taking over MLB.TV, right? Yep. And there's a whole new negotiation between Major League Baseball and how their broadcast will air next season. And Netflix is getting involved, right? It's getting increasingly more and more hard to watch sports and watch all of the sports, right? It feels like the other end of this full circle kind of negotiation, right, where everybody has been profiting off of it. It feels like there has to be places where people start to take losses in the general sports economy. Where that comes from, I'm not quite sure, but it just feels like from an economic standpoint, that's how these things kind of have to work out. That offers no solution to the conversation at hand, and I think I agree with you at the end of the day. It does feel like the WNBA is trending towards lockout, but we've reached a very, very interesting juncture in the sports cycle.
I wonder where the NBA gets involved. I want to see at what point does Adam Silver and the powers that be at the NBA, who have helped to subsidize this league for so many years, is there a red line for them where they say, all right, we've got to jump in here and save this thing because we've invested so much into it for so many years that at this point we can't allow it to go under. And I'm sorry. I know everybody wants to say that women's sports is on the come and we've got a women's professional baseball league and women's soccer and women's hockey and all of these things are coming along. Yes, but they are still relatively in their infancy. And all it takes is one drop of the baby on its head and the game's over. And that's sort of where we are right now when it comes to the WNBA. If you think people are just going to sit there and whine and wallow over the fact that the WNBA is gone next summer, Caitlin Clark, Nafisa Collier, Angel Reese, all of you who have got your podcast, do you think anybody's going to give a crap about any of the stuff you're doing off the court when you're not playing on it anymore? All of these people that are in these rooms, and I'm sorry, Caitlin Clark has got to be a louder voice in this conversation. And she has tried so hard to stay out of anything that remotely puts her in the center of a conversation. She wants to sit back And you can't, because you're the face of the future of this league and the reason why salaries are escalating to where you want them to get to. You have to be a louder voice in this conversation, Caitlin Clark. You have to be. And she's sitting it out, Sam. And I don't know what it's going to take for her to get in the game. We got to go. Paige versus the Prince is next. I finally have a way to not lose to Sam. Surefire next. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Friday. Don't forget, SportsWrap weekends. SportsWrap weekends on many of these same affiliates. 30-minute wrap-up show of everything we talked about during the week. If it's not on this station, check your local listing for time and schedule. It could be on a sister station in your market. I know we're on all over the place because they've been emailing me saying, how do we get the show? Long story. Inside joke there. Sports Wrap with Jason Page, the podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. If you have not checked it out yet, make sure to go and do so. It's the audio version of this show, Monday through Friday, available everywhere, anywhere you get a podcast. Go check that out. Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. We have worked really hard at curating content for this. It is the show Monday through Friday, available there before anywhere else. Early in the afternoon, you can often catch the show on YouTube, commercial free. You can also catch Sports Wrap shorts. 1-minute clips generally. Sometimes they're longer, but usually we try to keep them to a minute. Covering the top stories of the day, top games of the night. We had one right after the Bills finished getting executed in Houston by the Texans. Go check it out. It's on our Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Sports Wrap shorts also available on TikTok, Sports Wrap Jason Page. On Instagram, Sports Wrap Jason Page. Easy as that. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, on this Friday, one of my favorite things we do on this show every week.
It's Friday, and that means it's time for the weekly face-off for sports betting bragging rights. It's Paige versus the Prince on the Sports Wrap.
Thank you, Chad Erickson. We've officially reached the point of the season where I don't even want to talk about what I did the week before. Because it's just embarrassing at this point. Like, Scott Van Pelt will put up that he's 48-52 on his college picks. And I'm like, why are you even putting that up? Why do you even want people to know how bad you suck? And I love SVP. I'm a huge SVP fan. But once I'm that bad, hey, if Donald Trump could avoid bad news and pretend it doesn't exist, inflation where? I can do the same. It's fake news. My season really isn't that bad. If I keep saying it, it'll have to be true. I finally have a way to not lose to Sam this week, though. In the words of Charles Barkley, I guarantee it. Sam, did you go undefeated last week? I can't beat that.
Do you have my record on the season in front of you?
No, I don't. But you're definitely in sharp territory. There's no question about that.
I think with the 4-0 week, we're like approaching 70%.
Yeah, I think you are. All right, Sam, give me 4 winners this week. Let's see what we can do.
Well, you just said it, Jason. I went 4-0 last week, so due for an 0-4 week this week. I would fade me at every angle possible if you can this week. Week 12 of the NFL is doing spin cycles in my brain, but there's one thing I know, and I've known it for weeks. The Kansas City Chiefs have their backs against the wall, and I waited for this spot. I waited long and I waited hard, and I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs minus the 3.5 at home against the Indianapolis Colts. We're on Daniel Jones pumpkin watch in this game. I think the Chiefs win going away. Give me the Chiefs minus the 3.5. Next, up to Lambeau. J.J. McCarthy has been awful, and Jordan Love hasn't been much better. I'm sorry. And the Packers defense rocks. So I'm going to bet on that. Give me Vikings at Packers under 41.5. Low number. I don't like a lot of points. Vikings, Packers under 41.5. Next, We got a fast track in New Orleans this weekend, and the Falcons haven't given the ball to Bijan Robinson enough over the course of the last 4 weeks. Let's change that this week. Falcons at Saints, over 39.5. I don't care that Kirk Cousins is quarterbacking in this one. Bijan runs for a lot. They score a lot in this game. Falcons and Saints get over a low number. And lastly, Jason, it pains me, as the famously known Giants guy on this show, that I have to pick the Detroit Lions minus 10.5 this week at home against the New York Giants. We don't know if Jackson Dart is definitely going to play. He practiced Wednesday and Thursday, coming off that concussion. Either way, I don't think he shakes the rust off super quickly. Give me the Lions laying 10.5. It's a big number, and I'll lay it anyway. So Chiefs minus 3.5 with their backs against the wall. Vikings, Packers under 41.5 from Lambeau. Falcons, Saints over 39.5 from New Orleans. And Lions minus 10.5 at home against the Giants.
I love it, Sam. Love it. I love it so much, I'll take the same games.
Yep, I knew it.
Can't lose. I'll tail Sam. I can't lose. Give me the Chiefs minus 3.5 against the Colts. Love it. Vikings and Packers under 41.5. It's a lock. Falcons and Saints over 39.5. Who's even starting for the Saints? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Sam picked him. It's got to be a winner. Lions minus 10.5 against my Giants? I don't care. They're going to smoke the Giants. It's over. 4 winners, baby. Let's go.
I realized halfway through giving out my picks that that's what you were going to do. I can't believe I was right. That was awesome. That rocked.
It's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks to Robert Littal. All of our guests this week. You, Sam Yarnell. You at home for watching. We'll see you back here on Monday after a 4-0 week for me and Sam. We're in it together, baby. Have a great weekend. That's Sports Wrap. Bye-bye. Hi there. I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? Subscribe. We've got Sports Wrap shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? You probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half of as they're not half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.